Hey guys, welcome to our joint Mazars and inVia Robotics webinar about how warehouse automation modernization improves productivity, enhances efficiencies, and impacts your supply chain management. I'm here with inVia Robotics Senior Engineer Nicolas Leon, and my name is Chris Grado, leader of the SEM practice here at Mazars in the US. Before we get started, let me give you a short intro to Mazars. Mazars is a Microsoft Gold partner. We are a full system integrator, and our services range from implementing biz apps such as Dynamics 365, SEM, CE, mixed reality, over Power Platform custom dev to Azure and modern workplace. Short, we can act as a true one-stop shop and trusted advisor for everything Microsoft. And we partnered up and joined forces with inVia Robotics on all things warehouse automation. That's why we're here today for this webinar. Nicolas, may I throw the ball over to you to introduce yourself and inVia Robotics?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me, Chris. And again, I'm Nicolas Leone, Senior Solution Engineer with inVia Robotics. So my role, I support the sales team all the way through our deployment process, as well as working with our product and engineering team on understanding how to best address our market. So definitely excited to talk to you guys today. I guess inVia Robotics as a whole, as a warehouse automation system, really utilizing an AI-driven software to take the complex work that is all the work that needs to happen within a warehouse and turning it into a clean and efficient plan throughout the day, as well as executing and maintaining accurate records. We also have an add-on robotics for customers and order profiles that have that fit.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Nicolas. So let's get started with the agenda. You're probably already curious about what we're talking about today. Trust me, so am I. It's a very exciting add-on or topic feature. And here are the agenda points. We start with what is MHAX. MHAX stands for Material Handling Equipment Interface, and it's a feature in Dynamics 365 SEM, right? So we start with that to set the foundation. Before we go actually in the exciting part of the webinar. And here Nicolas comes into play and we'll talk about inVia Robotics warehouse automation system. Following, we will address the business impacts and the value of such warehouse automation system, as well as we finish up or close things out with highlighting our collaboration and how we go to market together to bring your warehouse operations to the next level. Alrighty. So let's get started. What is MHAX actually? And before we jump in a quick demo, I want to highlight the architecture. MHAX is used to connect external physical material handling equipment, such as robotics, to an actual warehouse that is managed by Dynamics 365 SEM Advanced Warehousing. In this case, we're talking about inVia Robotics and their hardware, right? And it ties hand in hand into MHAX. There are two queues, as you see in the architecture diagram. One is the outbound queue and one is the inbound queue. And one is going from the WMS to the material handling equipment and vice versa. Essentially, the work is created in the advanced warehousing module in Dynamics 365. This is generating an outbound event that is queued in the outbound queue and is regularly picked up by the material handling equipment. It does its magic, right? So in the inVia robot does its magic, and after finishing or handling the event itself, it connects back to the material handling equipment service and sends an inbound event to the inbound queue. This one could be, for example, work line completion, short picking, or it may create new work, right? Those events are immediately processed by the MHAX inbound queue processor, and updates in the advanced warehousing modules are done accordingly. So this is the overall architecture and flow. That was enough to give you a high-level understanding of it. We jump straight in a demo because, again, we believe in learning by doing, right? So we take a look at some configurations first, and then we jump right into a demo and then hand it over to the exciting part and Nicolas' part, right? So first of all, we address the material handling equipment parameters, the subscription, before we jump into demo. Let me jump over to Dynamics. Cool. So if you're running version 10.0.29, MHAX is already a mandatory or enabled feature, right? If you do so, or if you're running a version past .29, you will have that MHAX feature here on the left-hand side, right? Let's first address the equipment interface parameters, just for your awareness. Here we set up the user mapping, means every work that we are processing via the inbound queue, for example, needs to be stamped with a certain worker or work user, right? So here it is my CS user for the warehouse 24. I also set up number sequences for the inbound queue, the outbound queue, and the work line pair ID. This is essentially pairing the pick and put work together so the robot can process it accordingly. Okay. Another important feature is the subscription. Okay. The subscription determines a specific point during work creation or execution when Dynamics 365 SCM should or should not generate an outbound event that is staged in the MHAX queue and is picked up by the material handling equipment. Okay, we can set up certain queries. Here I just have it wide open for the warehouse 24, but we could set up different filter criteria. Most important is the subscription map for the demo, right? Here you can see I have different fields, data fields. I can actually send up to 10 data fields here. Most of them are usually in the work header, work lines. Here in this example, we send the record ID, the work line pair, the work ID, the user ID, the work quantity, the item number, and the unit. Okay, so those are fields that we are sending for outbound. Okay, that's it. Let's take a look and create the sales order. I'll do so by going to the left-hand side, the burger menu, the module, and I'm going to accounts receivable. I'm creating a new sales order for my first wholesales customer. You can see it defaults to my warehouse 24. And I specify, let me zoom out a little bit so you can see it better. There you go. I put in my item number. I can specify the quantity, of course. At this point, it's just leave it as 1. I save it and I process a manual reservation because that's how we set it up, have it set up in the AR parameters as well as on the item model group. I reserved the lot. Now I'm ready to release it to the warehouse. As soon as I release it to the warehouse, my wave is actually set up to automatically create the wave as well as process the wave and release it. So it's running in batch for a second. And if I refresh the screen and go to the warehouse tab or line details and go to the work details, you can see there's work created. Okay, there's pick and put work for the location FL001 and drop it off at the beta location. All right. If I'm going now into my outbound queue under MHAX, because again, based on the subscription, this triggered MHAX. And I'm going to the outbound queue. I see there are 2 lines created, right? And both are paired via the work line pair ID. Okay, it is set up in ready status, so it is not sent out yet. It needs to be picked up, and I can see actually the work ID, the work line pair ID. I can see my quantity, I can see my item, and the unit of measure. Right, those are the items that I set up in the subscription map before. Now, in a real scenario, inVia Robotics would do its magic. At this point, we stage that via Postman, right? It's a common tool to test those scenarios. So first of all, I get an authentication token. Similarly, inVia Robotics would get authentication to the MHAX service, right? So we do so. As soon as I trigger that, let me actually send that again. I get a bearer token, If I'm going now to my outbound queue, my post job to read the outbound queue and process it and send it, I can see further down here that my ID or my created work is picked up. Okay, you can see my item number, my quantity, the unit of measure, the warehouse, and some more details, and the 10 fields, right, that we mapped. So if I'm going back into Dynamics now and refresh the screen, you can see, whoop, it just updated it to send. So it's sent outbound, and inVia would do its magic. Couple minutes later, let's assume the work is finalized, right? We still need to send back an update, right, to Dynamics, because the work is still open, right? So what we will do here is, and of course this would happen automatically. Here I'm just staging things via Postman. The work line pair ID would give, you would fetch back, as well as the work ID, right? That would trigger that to update the work. This will fail, and I do it on purpose just to show you the error handling capabilities. So here it says, hey, the target license plate provided is invalid. So let's go back to Dynamics. And if I'm going to my inbound queue, I can see there's an error. I can see the error log, and it says, oh, there's an invalid target license plate. Guess what? We already used the target license plate. That was the issue. But I did it on purpose. You can reprocess it from Dynamics if you would do so, if you would like. In my case, I'm just going back to Postman and adjust the license plate to the correct license plate that I want to send. I send it now. You get a 200 status. It went through just successfully. If I'm going back to my Dynamics instance in the inbound queue, I refresh, and you can see there is a processed work confirm for my work ID, the work line pair ID, my warehouse with the specific license plate. If I'm going back to my sales order now, under accounts receivable or sales orders, I'm going back into my sales order specifically and take a look at the work under warehouse and work details. I can see now the work is closed. So again, you just saw a full loop. To summarize it, we created the work, it triggered an MHAX event, it was picked up by inVia Robotics, we staged it via Postman. Afterwards, inVia Robotics did its magic. We staged via Postman and sent back a message to update the work in advanced warehousing in Dynamics. So this is the full loop. That said, let me hand it over to Nicholas.
Yep, absolutely. Let me put my screen real quick. All right, so great demonstration from Christian talking about how we as inVia are receiving those outbound queued work assignments or the work that needs to be completed. So I'll actually just take a step back really quick and talk a little about inVia Robotics, how our software operates, a little bit about what is going on with those messages that we're receiving from that outbound queue. And then we'll dive into a live demo of what happens once we've received those, how we create allocations, create the work that needs to be completed, and actually go through the execution of that. So a little bit about inVia Robotics, again, at a high level. Although robotics is in the name, we are a software first and foremost as this warehouse automation system. So they're at the center of our value of what we provide is inVia Logic. This is the AI-powered software. Some of the components of inVia Logic that we'll be going through today is starting off with the 3D digital twin. So this is something that we do for every one of our deployments. This allows us to basically create a 3D virtual map of the facility that we are operating within. So that gives us real-time visibility on inventory, their 3D location within the facility, travel paths, where users are relative to their last scan and next scan, as well as how we can properly batch and group work to reduce travel, reduce congestion within the facility, and really organize and optimize all of the work that needs to be done. what that leads into is business intelligence through real-time data visibility, as well as post-work analytics. So in real time, having access to all of the users, where they're working, what allocations that we have out for the inventory that we're picking, as well as afterwards having reporting on how well the warehouse is functioning. And again, this is all in real time. How the pickers are performing. So as a supervisor, you can know where to spend your time instead of handing out work. You can really focus on troubleshooting any individual users or workflows that are maybe struggling. We have inVia Connect, which is our very flexible integration platform. Again, we'll talk about how more specifically this receives that outbound queue from MHAX, but we also work with other WMS and ERP systems very flexibly to this Connect platform. And then how we shape and send those messages back for the completed work, back to that inbound queue. We have inVia PickMate, which is a alternate optional user interface that once we've created a plan for all the work to be completed, we can guide the users out on the floor through this user interface. We can also work with a user interface from an existing deployed system. So certainly just an alternate option for some of our customers that don't already have an existing intuitive interface to guide them through the work. And then we'll talk about the intelligent job planning and assignment that Chris has alluded to a couple of times and what that looks like. So at a high level, again, our new way to warehouse that we call it. So on the right here, you see an example of a 3D warehouse. We'll go through another more live version of this here in a minute. You can see we have inbound receiving, we have reserved pallet locations, some manual case picking locations, as well as an example of an inVia robotic grid. Again, the robots are just an add-on to the software for those customers and order profiles that really fit where we provide more value with the goods to person system. What this new approach allows us to do is meet our SLAs or service level agreements, basically the due times, the deadlines on the different orders throughout the day and all the work that needs to be done. So as a system, we are always working SLA backwards. So if you have a UPS pickup at 3 o'clock and a FedEx pickup at 5 o'clock, we'll look at all the work that's due at 3 o'clock. We'll look at all the dependencies. So maybe you have some earlier orders that require a replenishment and a put away in order for those to be completed. We'll schedule that work to be done sooner because we know how long that's expected to take. And we know that it's due earlier in the day. So we're always looking at making sure not only that the work is completed as quickly as possible, but also that the work that's due earlier is done earlier so that you never miss a deadline for any of your customers. Again, with the software and the robotics, this allows us to boost productivity, which reduces labor cost. This 3D warehouse visual allows us to improve space utilization, driving actual insights around slotting, consolidation, where your product is moving and stored within the facility, really driving more use of the same square footage that you currently have in your facility. And then just with our robotics, we can also deploy those using your existing infrastructure, really a brownfield environment. We're one of the very few hardware companies that can work with your existing racking without having to bring in our own new racking. So we can make your existing infrastructure work, really allowing us to kind of have a crawl, walk, run, or a phased approach where a lot of our customers benefit from just the software, and then we can come in and drop the robots in as a phase 2 very easily later on. So quick video, just want to go through a couple of points here. This is showing a little bit of our robotics in an existing warehouse. So what you're seeing here is these robots are moving individual totes or containers of products. And what we're really focused on is you have all of this deep storage here. What we're really focused on is reducing the walking. So instead of having to navigate, 100 aisles throughout the day, you're really having the robots travel 99 aisles and the pickers are navigating just the one aisle. So all of the totes here on the wall are SKUs that are stored that you may only have touched once a month, once a year. And what we're doing is we're having the robots bring those SKUs that are in demand each and every day to that centralized picker wall. And you can see we have multiple robots all coordinating with each other, planning that flexible movement. We don't have any hard, magnetic wires in the ground or, floor barcodes that they have to navigate and stop at in each sequential turn. We're very flexible and coordinated with the movement and having many, many robots work in the same space without having any congestion. So you can see we have multiple robots moving those totes. And then what they're going to do here in a second is bring them to a hyperdense centralized picker wall. So what you're seeing here is every single one of these robots is putting a SKU onto this picker wall that is in demand for today. So This allows us to, again, reduce the 100 aisles of a warehouse down to a single aisle. And then when we release work to be picked, it is all happening on this single aisle. The other couple of benefits that we have from this system is that the robots aren't having to wait on either each other or on the pickers themselves. We've decoupled the robots from the people. You'll see here in a second that we have basically the robots can work on one side of the wall, slotting and deslotting those SKUs that we're either done picking or that we have work coming up for. And the people on the other side are able to pick those items whenever they want. So we don't have robots waiting on people in order to perform their next task. This also allows the robots to, do replenishments, do put away parallel to picking processes. We don't have to turn off the ability to get orders out the door while we do replenishments and put away. We can do both simultaneously. And then once we have this wall slotted with all of the SKUs that are in demand each day, we have a person picking these orders to a cart. Again, this video is showing our user interface. Again, we can utilize an existing interface that is part of the current deployed software stack. But basically what we're doing is guiding this picker through the picks on the wall here. And again, we've brought all of the SKUs that are in demand to this wall. And now we're picking those in very optimized and efficient batching opportunities to this single cart. So the average pick distance between picks off of this picker wall across our customers is less than 3 feet. So you think about a normal warehouse and you're maybe going down 10 different aisles, picking one item per aisle. Here, we're picking multiple items per rack bay before, completing all of the orders for the day. So just taking the biggest, waste of labor within a facility, which is idle time and travel, and really getting rid of 90% of that with this picker wall system. And again, this is just an add-on to, the normal software. So we can still group and assign all of the work with the inVia job board that we'll go through here in a minute, the warehouse 3D, all of the different components can still utilize all of this without robots. We can have a fully software deployment, and we have many customers that utilize just our software for the picking. So just a little bit more of the picking, a little bit of what that interface looks like, again, for the customers that maybe don't already have an existing software stack that has that. And you can see this individual is picking over 700 units per hour off of this dense picker wall. So now taking a step back a little bit and looking at how do we fit into the Dynamics 365 SCM, as well as the queue, the outbound queue and inbound queue that Chris walked us through here a minute ago. So really what we're focused on is receiving those orders through those outbound queues into inVia Logic. What we then do is create a plan for the rest of the day based on all of the dependencies, again, put away, replenishment, all of the work that needs to be done, that complex chaos of the warehouse work, creating an organized and efficient plan, and minimizing any down or wasted time. We're balancing labor between these different functions throughout the day. And we also create a plan. We'll have a quick video. We'll go through this in a minute, but we create a plan and then recreate that plan every minute so that if you have urgent orders that come in and we need to get those out in 30 minutes, you don't have to wait on all of your pickers to get done with their wave of 40 orders. We can assign that urgent order to the very next user that's available in the system. So we're also doing this across multiple different types of functions. So in this example, we're showing we have people picking, we have robots moving products around the facility. We also interface with different forklifts and MHE, so we can have the software guide people on an order picker. We can also allocate and guide the execution of other hardware, whether it's another AGV or maybe it's an ASRS. We've integrated with other types of automation where, again, inVia Logic is still the brain of the operation, creating the schedule, creating all of the plan that needs to be executed, but we have other hardware that can make some of those executions happen. Some of the actual tasks can be carried out by hardware while we're still planning all of the work that needs to be done. It's a very hard problem to solve in the warehouse. And then actually going through the execution. So we're not just taking that plan and handing it back to Dynamics 365. We're actually executing the work that needs to happen, again, either through our interface, through another piece of hardware, or maybe through the customer's interface if they already have one. And then once that work has been done, the product's been put away, the product's been replenished from reserve to forward pick, the product has been picked out of inventory, it's in an order container, it's ready to go out the door. We'll send that verification, we'll do a quality check and then send that verification back through the MHAX inbound queue so that Dynamics 365 knows that that order is in a shipping container, it's on the dock, and it's ready for going on an outbound truck. And again, we have a waveless approach where we're replanning all of this every single minute of the day. So all of the future work, and we'll go through a quick video of how that looks. So what you're seeing here before I start the video, on the bottom, we have an example of our warehouse 3D. Now, this is just for the software picking. So again, you don't even need the robots to utilize the value of our software and job planning. So this is showing the warehouse 3D where we have about 20 aisles. We have a handful of pickers. So we are organizing all of the work that needs to be done by those individuals within that warehouse. And on the top here, you're seeing our job board. So you have all of the work that needs to be completed here in the blue bars. So we have about 1,000 orders that we need to complete today. What you'll see with this operation for this, and this is a video of one of our existing customers, what you'll see is that they actually don't get all of their orders at 8 a.m. nice and clean at the beginning of the day. They actually get new orders that drop throughout the day. So you'll see this number go down and then come back up because they're receiving new batches of orders. And what that allows us to do is look for batching opportunities within those new orders that drop. So if somebody ordered a package of Oreos at 8 a.m. and we haven't picked it at 12 o'clock noon, and somebody else orders those Oreos, now we still pick both those orders with one visit to a location instead of having to go back a second time. So we're always looking for those batching opportunities throughout the day. So what you'll see here is on the left, we have our different users. So these are manual pickers. These are robots moving products. This could be other, again, hardware technologies like AGVs or ASRSs, where we are assigning work. Every individual box here on this job board, as the time moves across, is an individual job that we're assigning and planning and releasing. The green boxes, are completed work. The blue boxes are jobs that are in progress, and the gray boxes are jobs that are being planned. You'll see this plan shift every couple of seconds here because every minute throughout the day, we are recalculating that entire plan. There may be opportunities for more efficiencies, more batching, if we combine work in a different way with the new information that's being released from that outbound queue from MHAX. And as you can see, if you have a user sign off at 10 o'clock, they got to go have a doctor's appointment. All of the work that was assigned to them that can no longer be completed is reassigned or reallocated automatically to other dependencies that are available in the system. And this can be based off of a schedule. So if you have multiple shifts and you expect a certain number of pickers per shift, you can input all of that information and we can create an optimized plan around scheduled work. We're also, again, working SLA backwards. So part of this is knowing that we have those earlier orders work before the later work. And again, with the robots, that it's just an add-on. So part of this layout would just become a robotic system where instead of having the people travel all these aisles, now the robots are doing the traveling and the people only pick up of a single aisle. So we're making millions of these decisions every single day so that you can, instead of having a supervisor make the decisions, make the plan and release the work, the software is doing that for you, and supervisors can spend their time doing what they should be, which is actually supervising individuals, driving continuous improvement, troubleshooting issues going on in the warehouse. We also provide the ability to override any of these systematically created plans with individual manual reassignments if needed. If you want to manually assign somebody else to a task, you still have that ability as a supervisor or manager. So with that being said, I want to jump into just a quick live demo, go through a couple of different functions and features that we talked about. Again, going back to that original slide where we talked about inVia logic and the supporting components. So here we'll actually go through some of those components. So I'll actually start here at the inVia Connect. So again, this is our flexible integration tool. So like Chris was talking about, this is where we would receive that API endpoint, which is that outbound queue. We can also work with other types of integration protocols and other types of WMS and ERP, but that outbound queue would basically be an input for us on the connector side. So receiving order lines, receiving inventory updates, all of the work that needs to be completed throughout the day, basically receiving all that information, transforming it if needed, applying priority values if needed. And then we would set up the output connectors, again, to send messages back to the inbound queue that the work has been done. These orders have been completed, the inventory has been moved. Here's an example of our warehouse 3D. So again, this is a 3D visual that we create for all of our deployments. With this example, like we talked about, this would be like your Forest wholesale, facility, like Chris was talking about, this warehouse 24. So we'd have receiving lanes up here on the right, pallet reserve storage here in the orange, some manual case locations over here in the yellow, and then an example of our robotic grid. What this allows us to do is understand not only where all of the inventory is on a very precise 3D coordinate basis, but also understand where the travel paths are so that we can group and assign and execute that work without creating congestion, balancing labor between different zones, as well as finding all of those little batching opportunities throughout the day. Some other uses of the Warehouse 3D here. So this is an example of our velocity heat map. So showing the locations in red that are for our A velocity SKUs, yellow for sort of the B and C kind of middle movers, and then green for sort of our maybe D, E, F slower moving SKUs that we only interface with, once a month, once a year, that kind of thing. And what you're seeing is that we are able to visually show where we are slotting those SKUs by velocity. So ideally, these velocity zones would be radiating from their next destination. In this case, you have reserve feeding the replenishment wall of the robotic system. You have the robot inventory feeding that picker wall down here on the bottom. And then you have the manual case locations feeding the pallet locations and drop off down here for pack out. So just another tool that we use to drive efficiency gains across velocity slotting. This is another example of the SKU demand. So with the 1,900 orders that we have currently in the system, where are we actually picking those or allocating those products from? So you can see all of the red locations here are locations where we're picking a higher number of units. The green are lower number of units, and yellow are in between. We can set these thresholds so that really as a manager, you can take a look at this and say, hey, we have a SKU that we're picking a whole lot of, and it's in the back corner. It's really far away from pack out. Let's maybe reslot that closer to pack out, closer to its replenishment location, so that we can drive less travel. We can really reduce the amount of distance needed to access this SKU more often. We talked about that job board again, just another example of what that would look like with different users. And these users could be individual pickers, packers, replenishment, cycle counting, put away. This also could be, other robotics or hardware pieces. So this could be our robots. This could be another AGV that we're coordinating all of the work that needs to be completed. And then we also have, the ability to support multiple different SLAs. So like we talked about earlier, that UPS pickup at 3 o'clock, that FedEx pickup at 5 o'clock, understanding when those due times are relative to the work being planned and executed right now, and making sure that we not only get orders out as quick as possible, but when they're due. So we're not having, the UPS order wait until tomorrow for the next truck since we didn't get it out on time, making sure that all of the customers stay happy. We also talked about having some live real-time labor management reporting. So this is an example of a warehouse performance snapshot dashboard, basically showing how well we are performing as an overall dashboard, as an overall warehouse. So you can see the active orders in the system, flagged orders, different KPIs around specific functions. So whatever KPIs matter most to your operation. In this case, we're showing units per hour as well as lines per hour, but it could be cases or orders per hour, whatever matters most to your operation. We're very data rich and very flexible in terms of what we can show. We also utilize, library panels where if we have one customer that wants a specific piece of information, like this idle time, they wanted to know, how long between scans are most of our users at any given point in time. And this was something that we created a library panel, and now all of our other customers can benefit from using this new, visibility on labor. So very flexible with the data that we can show here. We also show on a on a user level. So these are individual users in the system as well as individual jobs. So I can see, if we send Chris out to pick some orders, we can see how many units he's picking, how many lines, how long that job took, what his performance is by units and by lines, as well as breaking out travel and pick speed. So maybe Chris is picking a lot faster than me, but I'm traveling a lot less because of the work that I was assigned. We can judge each individual based on their pick speed because that's really what's up to their control. So we'll make sure Chris gets the gold star if he's picking faster than me. And also showing, a histogram of where that distribution is. So we have some orders that are picking significantly higher than the bulk. So maybe figuring out, if there's a process that we can copy over to the rest of the work that might make our overall warehouse more efficient. Again, just trying to drive those actionable insights into the operation so that you can really, add more value to the overall operation. So now we're at the point where we're talking about that outbound queue that Chris had generated. He sent us some orders for this Forest Wholesale facility. So what is inVia actually doing with those? These are our allocations. So all of the outbound orders that we need to fulfill that Chris sent our way through the MHAX outbound queue. We've created an allocation. So we've got the individual orders, the order lines, which SKU we're picking from, as well as where we're planning on picking that from, and in the quantities. So you can see we're planning on picking this item from this container in storage. We can see what zone it is, the destination container. So we're planning on picking these to multi carts. we're planning on, we'll have like some singles carts as well. So different cart types based on your operation, based on your order profile, and then the quantities and, which job these are being assigned to. So we can look at all the work that is being assigned within each job. We also have, just go through a couple of these real-time database views, but looking through all of the order lines that were released, just another way to look at that. So where the allocations are, if there wasn't enough product for any of these orders, we would flag those here basically with an insufficient quantity flag, where we aren't going to release those allocations and have a picker waste time visiting a location where there's not enough product. We're going to flag that to a supervisor so they can troubleshoot and figure out where that missing product is before we ever release the work. So we're not having a bunch, users waste time out on the floor. We can also show, real-time views with the inventory. Again, the WMS is always going to be the inventory of record and the master inventory, but we keep a real-time inventory of all of our zones, locations, the individual containers or LPNs that those products are stored in, and in what quantity. We can set up replenishment rules to drive from reserve to forward pick. And we do all of this in real time, sending updates, sending syncs back to the WMS again through that inbound queue and through other connections, so that the WMS keeps an accurate list at all times. And then over here, again, the work that Chris sent our way, we've organized that into a couple of individual jobs, and we've already planned a user for those jobs. We choose which user is going to be assigned each job, again, referencing this job board here. So we'll choose which user is being assigned each job based on their historic pick rates. So if we have an urgent order that comes out in 30 minutes and it's due, it's got to go out the door in 30 minutes. And Chris sometimes pick fast, but he sometimes picks slow, and I'm always, much faster. It looks at that historic pick rate and it views me as a more reliable picker, and it'll assign that urgent high priority work to me to make sure that we don't miss that SLA. So there's a predictive, variance that goes into who we're choosing for each job. We're also looking at the different cart types. So again, we're going to group and assign work where there's batching opportunities. So maybe that's having 50 different orders that are all for a single line and a single unit. Well, we might take all of those and batch them to one cart that we can batch pick 6, 10, 15 orders at a time, put all of those in one container, take it to pack out. And now the pack out process is streamlined because you just take one item, put it in a shipping container, and scan that order ID for your shipping label. So that's really where the planning within inVia Logic takes place. Again, the other piece here would be executing that work either through inVia PickMate. We saw a quick video of that, or using the existing software user interface with your current software stack. So, the execution piece happens, and then once that work is complete, we go back to send that message back to the MHAX inbound queue. So I think with that, I will hand this back over to Chris and see if there's, actually, I've got one more. So just high level, again, what the overall value of what inVia is doing here. We're aiming for a more productive warehouse. We typically see a 2 to 3x boost in productivity with just the software, 5+% or 5+ multiple of productivity when there's robots involved. Again, reducing that travel, maybe 30 to 50% in the warehouse with just using the software batching and job assignment, and then having that travel reduction be up to 90% with robotics. Again, taking that 100 aisle warehouse, condensing it down to a single aisle. So this is all designed around meeting those SLAs, reducing that travel and wasted time, and also reducing the order cycle time. So basically, whenever that order is released to inVia through that outbound queue, how long until it gets back in the inbound queue with a complete message? On average, we're seeing a significant reduction with our customers on how long the orders sit in our system before they're fully planned, executed, and delivered. So I think with that, I'll pass this back over to Chris to put a bow on the overall Mazars and inVia value. It was definitely a pleasure to speak with you guys today.
Awesome. Wow. That's very powerful, very powerful. Thanks so much for the insights. And I think it's obvious to the audience how inVia Robotics and its solution can boost efficiency, productivity, focus, labor costs, and also management. So thanks so much for the insights. One more thing to add for the technical audience, maybe on this webinar, I want to highlight one more thing that's very unique about our collaboration here with Dynamics 365 SEM, MHAX, and inVia Robotics. And that is, yes, you can implement as a net new implementation, makes sense. But a nice part, and I want to emphasize that, it can be added on as a phase 2 engagement. As you stated, right, Nicholas, We can work with your current warehouse layout, as well as add on AWM MHAX as a phase 2 to make you more efficient if you're already up and running on Dynamics 365 SCM. That's a big differentiator to other warehouse solutions in terms of automation, and I want to emphasize that. Cool. From a Mazars and inVia Robotics collaboration standpoint, to close things out, I want to highlight how we go to market here. And we recently released a public statement to announce the collaboration, right? And as the public statement says, inVia and Mazars work together, hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder, to deliver digital transformation to warehouses. While inVia comes in here to the table with an industry-leading technology in terms of warehouse automation, intelligent work allocation, Mazars will be the system integrated, delivering and supporting the overall warehouse digital transformation solution and journey, right? And our collaboration is targeting primarily the retail, CPG, the manufacturing sector, working with Microsoft Dynamics 365 supply chain as a backbone ERP or supply chain management system, right? And as a sneak peek, we are actually establishing a fixed scope, fixed price offering with inVia as we speak, as part of the Mazars Now series. So you will see such shortly on App Source. So stay connected on updates on that. But I think this will give you, or this gave you a good taste of Mazars, inVia Robotics, MHAX, and how we collaborate and how we can actually support your warehouse and supply chain management operations and add a competitive edge to it, right? There's much more to talk about in terms of supply chain warehousing and warehouse automation. So we hope to hear from you. Please get in touch, and we're certainly looking forward to hearing from you in the near future and hopefully accompanying you on your digital transformation journey regarding everything SCM. Thank you.